Hello and welcome to the Premier Cheese channel. This week it's another episode of the FPL show. Before we start, remember to like and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more stuff. Anyway, let's get on with the video.
Right, boys, welcome back to the FPL show. We're going to talk through all the FPL assets that we need, all the FPL assets that we don't need, and everything in between. But without further ado, let's get into Winner of the Week. Right, I have won this week again by the slimmest of margins we've ever had, in that both of you two got 47, I got 50. Where did it go so wrong for you two in getting 3 points less than me?
Sanchez. If Sanchez hadn't have got sent off, he would have got 2 points, and I would have finished on the same amount of points as you.
And I still would have put myself as winner of the week, because currently I thought Jacq and me had tied, but you got 2 bonus points from the Brighton game, and I got 3 bonus points from the Brighton game, so I ended up winning. But yeah, a nice spread of points, I believe. A lot of people got 2s and 1s and such, and it wasn't a good week for all of us, really. But Trossard, Ravenna, Salah, obviously, everyone captain, everyone went through for him. But a lot of blanks, a lot of nothings. We've really just had a really poor week, and at least I've stayed within 100 points of Ellis. So actually, I'm within 90 now. Pulling away, you've stayed your distance from Jacq, but yeah, I think it's quite a stable team. I really think I've got 2 free transfers. I can change some people out. Troy's not starting, so I think he's going to go. I'm umming and ahhing. I think Tony might go as well, because I'll keep faith with everyone else, because I think there's actually strikers out there at a cheap budget option who are actually better options than Tony at the moment, because Brentford just don't seem to be winning at the moment. They don't seem to be scoring goals, even though they did look really well in the start of the season. But yeah, that's the same. That's what I'm doing. Do you thinking of making any transfers?
I'm going to get rid of Greenwood. I think that's my aim for this week. I'm not sure. I've got 2 weeks to think about it because of the international break. But yeah, Greenwood is looking like he's going out. Maybe Conor Gallagher come in, someone like that. But I'm going to have so much money in the transfer bank, and I'm going to have to spend it on someone that's just got so many low value players and still getting quite a lot of points. It's a really weird season.
Yeah, it's just Salah and then lots of like 6, 7, 8 million pound assets. Really, is all you need. But yeah, without further ado, let's see who else performed really well this week. Right, boys. Jacq, who do you think is looking like a tasty little FPL Dirty Boy asset for the coming weeks?
I would say Trossard. I mean, purely because his form is 6, which is good. His percentage value of people selected is quite low. Same for Pablo Fornals. Both Trossard at 2.3%, Fornals at 2.1%. They've both got quite decent form, both in very informed teams. So I would reckon that one of those or both of those would be quite tasty little morsels of tasty little nuggets to get into the old FPL team.
Decent fixtures for Trossard as well, I believe. He's got Villa and Leeds as his next 2. And obviously West Ham are pretty decent. Obviously Villa are on transition, so you do expect maybe a bounce back after the international break, but they aren't doing well. They are conceding goals. Leeds obviously very susceptible to conceding goals at the moment. So Trossard's a decent asset, and we know he's on pens, so I think that's a very safe option to go for. Ellis, is there anyone that you're thinking about bringing into your team?
Yeah, like the start I said, Conor Gallagher, he's been in good form at the moment. He's relatively cheap. 14% of people, but obviously he's doing well. He's got 7 in form. Jarrod Bowen as well, a bit further down the list. I don't think he's quite on this top list that we've got, but he's still getting a consistent amount of points in the last few weeks. He's got 7.2 in his form. So yeah, he's doing well. Probably those 2. My midfield is probably where I'm going to be in the coming weeks. So yeah, probably not going to bring in Isaac Hayden from Newcastle. I think that's a bit of an outlier this week in terms of points.
Newcastle outlets in every way. Just for the fixtures for Conor Gallagher, I believe Burnley, Aston Villa, and Leeds are pretty decent for getting goals and getting returns from those games. And obviously he's looked very good. He looked very good from the Wolves game when I watched us lose to Crystal Palace, and he did look very good from those games. And obviously 24 points in the last 2 games. Quite decent for a very budget signing at 5.8 million. Jacq, is there anyone here that you would steer clear from that you think is just a shot in the pan, one isolated week they've had a good return and they won't return for for coming weeks?
Yeah, well, I mean, El did say, didn't he, Isaac Hayden. I'd also say Matthias Norman for Norwich. Norwich they are finding a little bit of form, but they have also just sacked their manager. So what's going to happen through that little vein of form that they've started? Who knows? I'd also say, scrolling down a bit, maybe Kouyaté, because he's not normally on the points end of things for Crystal Palace.
I'd also say Adam Armstrong. I know he got his goal against Villa, but that's only the second he's got this season. I don't think he's got any assists. He's not been a great points returner for Southampton this season, so maybe still avoid him despite him having a good week.
Yeah, maybe it's not turning fixtures, but they have Norwich next, so potentially if he's going to capitalise on this goal and on this form, then Norwich would be the fixture to have it. But what we've learned from this is our advice is not to put any Newcastle or Norwich players into your team. So that's great, brilliant advice there, boys. But let's go on into transfers in. Right, boys, transfers in. Obviously, a lot of people putting Gallagher. It's a very cheap budget option for midfield, and he has been returning points lately, so actually that's a very good shout, Ellis. Jacq, is there anyone here that you think you should steer away from?
The Manchester City players, purely because for them, points are so widely spread and kind of random that you can't really bank on one player getting loads of points, because the next week it'll be someone else. I brought in Foden recently, and since then he's not really been doing amazingly in terms of direct goal output. So I think putting your money on a Man City player is great, but just make sure you have about 4 of them. You can't even have 4 of them.
You can't have 4 of them.
Make sure you have 3 of them. Don't just have 1, because 1, it'll be the one you don't pick.
Well, the 3 assets that are on there, so Cancelo, Bernardo, and Foden, are the 3 that tend to start every game and have been. Is Jesus on there?
Jesus is 2 places below.
He's not. So he's not on screen, Jacq.
Oh right, okay. I'm looking at the very long list.
Those 3 are the ones who tend to start every game. The interesting thing here, what I've done the Norwich effect, is that the team that is playing Norwich next tends to have a huge influx of transfers. So there are 3 Southampton players in it. You might be very confused to why there are 3 Southampton players, but it's because they play Norwich next. And I think if you go back week by week and see what team strangely is in there, it's the team that are playing Norwich, because they are that bad. And I think necessarily it's not worth.
So who's playing Norwich? Who's playing Newcastle?
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily worth bringing in people for that one Norwich week. And obviously you go, Norwich are going to see goals or whatever. Even obviously with they had bad performances and now they've sacked their manager, you'd think it would go even worse. But yeah, and what I'll say in it, for people doing transfers in now, it's a very bad time to do it when we've got an international break. For when a lot of Premier League players are internationals, they could become injured. And we've seen this before where you make a change instantly, and then during the international break, they come up with an injury that'll be out for 2 months. And it's always a bad time to do it. And obviously these people may have needed to. They might have already had someone injured. But if you're thinking about it, hold fire. It's really going to work out for you, because you will have a 1 player or 2 players that you were thinking of transferring in who's going to be out for now 2 months because they've been injured on international duty. It's always looking out for. That's what I think. Ellis, is there anyone here that you're thinking of bringing in?
Gallagher, like I've already said, is what I'm looking at the top of the list for. I'm not too sure otherwise. Honestly, Chelsea players look like a good option, so James possibly. But there's no other Chelsea players on this list. They've got a few more difficult fixtures coming up. Ramsdale in goals doing well at the moment. I've already bought in Smith Rowe last week and he got me some points. I don't really know. There's not that many really sort of standout players that I think are going to keep performing on this list. So it's a weird one.
Yeah, you think maybe with Antonio Conte, he might actually have a really good run in now. I think Son does fit that Conte system very well, and I think he will thrive off it. Obviously, he was doing well under Nuno as well, but I think he will go to another level. But obviously, a very high asset, so we'll see about that. But let's move on to transfers out. Transfers out. Ellis, are you keeping Sanchez in your team? Or are you transferring him out? Because I can see very much because he's suspended for one game. He's out.
Yeah, he's suspended for a game. I'm not transferring him out. I'll just put Jose Suarez on my bench in. That's why I've got a sub goalkeeper, so I can just switch him out. It's pointless.
Genius.
It's pointless spending money changing a goalkeeper who's done well this season and is banned from one game. Like, why are you spending the money on it? Either save the free transfer or change a position that will actually get you more points. It's pretty pointless. Yeah, Damari Gray is an interesting one. Obviously, Everton haven't been in the best of form. There's been a goal or an assist for them. It's usually he's been involved in it in some way, so he's an interesting one. Ben Rama as well. West Ham are in good form, but he's not been involved in that many opportunities and contributions, I don't think, in recent weeks. So that's probably why people are going to be swapping him out for maybe Bowen or someone else in that West Ham team.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Jacq, how about you? Is there anyone here that you've got in your team that maybe you're going to think of bringing out as well, that everyone else is as well? I would say don't transfer anyone out yet because you don't know who's going to need replacing and who's going to need whatever because of the international break.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it yet. I am thinking of bringing out Townsend. Maybe to a lesser extent, at some point, Vardy. I mean, a lot of players have. I mean, there you go. 30% of people you can't see it on there. 30% of people have Vardy in their team on some area, and his form is proper dipped. His form is 3, which is not good enough considering he costs over 10 million. He is one of the 8-figure players, and for the price, you could like boost every other position. For if you were to go for a budget striker, you could boost every other position in your team. So I think in terms of the redistribution of wealth, because this whole show is secretly my way of bigging up socialism and communism. I think possibly if not Townsend, then Vardy.
Yeah, I think in Vardy's defence, I think when Leicester haven't been performing, so he hasn't been performing, but when Leicester do, and even sometimes when Leicester don't perform, he still does perform, and I think he'll come good. After the next game against Chelsea, I think they have a decent run in with Watford, Southampton, Villa, Newcastle and Spurs coming after that. So I think actually the fixtures after that game, straight after the international break, do look very good for Vardy. Obviously, we've said that about the games before when he hasn't really performed, but I still hold out hope. Vardy has always performed, and I think this is just a rough patch for him and for Leicester in general. But yeah, is there anyone else you really want to focus on, boys, before we round this out?
Yeah, go on. I'll have one more little Jack Townsend-Smith. I'm looking at the players who have the highest form who have been transferred out, and you can't see it on that list, but Mason Mount is his form is 6.5. So I'm curious to see why he's in that list because he is Firmino's form is 6, but he's unavailable due to a hamstring injury. But Mount's not got an injury as far as I'm aware.
Mount didn't start the game against Newcastle and he only played 5 minutes against Burnley, so he isn't in the Chelsea team at the moment. Despite, I think, was it scoring a hat-trick against Norwich? Yeah, scoring a hat-trick against Norwich. He hasn't been in the team since.
So that's what's kind of brought up his... actually, looking at his previous 5 games, his form is 6, because his last 5 are 1, 0, 24, 1, 1.
Yeah.
So he had one very good week,
and I think
fair enough.
I think Chelsea are now sort of turning into the new Man City. Say Man City are still being their same rotational self, but Chelsea are now falling into this that all FPL people need to look out for because Chelsea are just rotating people as well. So the fact that 2 of the most informed teams in the league that people rely on week in, week out to perform, not necessarily all their players are going to start because they've got such good depth and they will just rotate it just regularly. And I think it's very questionable. I think it's a difficult thing to see that the 2 teams that you really want to be having assets that start every game don't have that anymore, and I think we're all going to struggle from it. So we all have to rely on people who are in smaller teams but guaranteed to start, and I think that's a better option than hoping that Mount starts or hoping that Torres starts or Gabriel Jesus or whoever it is in either Chelsea or Man City. I think it's a difficult one for those two teams when you're talking about FPL assets. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. And yeah, thank you for joining us. And we will see you.
You're welcome. I had fun.
We will see you next time.